Shalom, everyone. We are in the book of Shoftim, or Judges. We are in the 10th chapter. This is the message that was scheduled for last week. I was on the road. I intended to record the sermon and send the teaching and send it out. And then just the situation didn't allow for that because of where I was and internet connection, what have you. So I decided just not to mess with it. And that we would pick up where we left off today. Last time we were talking about son of Zerubbabel or Gideon, and how the children of Israel were once again thrown away and then back away from Elohim. It says, after Abimelech, there arose to save Yisrael Ola, the son of Pua, the son of Dodo, from the tribe of Issachar. Now, I want you to think about this. Now, people, when I was younger, and I didn't know so much about the languages, I used to hear people make fun of the names Pua and Dodo and say, what kind of lineage did this guy have come from? Okay, Pua, what does that sound like? It sounds like something very unclean, right? Okay, Dodo, we make fun of the dodo bird for being so dumb that it died out, right? Okay, but let me tell you the hidden, I guess you could say, comical device in this story. And I really don't think it's there to be comical. I think it's there to tell us something. Let me tell you a little something about the name Tola. It says, after Abimelech, the father of kings, literally, there arose to save Yisrael Tola. Tola in the Hebrew has several meanings, the most common of which is worm. After the father of kings did his thing, Yehovah Elohim raised up a man named Worm to save Israel. Now, I've said for years, and I didn't coin this phrase, but I love this phrase, and I use it enough that so many other people think that I came up with it. I didn't come up with it, but I use the saying, I don't believe in a God who calls the qualified. I believe in a God who qualifies the called. And that if you are called by Yehovah Elohim, if you are called to be B'nai Abraham, B'nai Yitzhak, B'nai Yisrael, that he will qualify you when he has called you and he has prepared you. He will send you forth to do the work that he has for you. And he doesn't care if your name is Worm. So if you're ever feeling like you're not good enough to do what he is calling you to do, if he put something on your heart and you feel that you are not the right one to do it, he must have made a mistake. Think again, because he called a man named Worm, and what he did was important enough that you see it today written in Scripture. He lived in Shamir, in the hills of Ephraim. He judged Yisrael 23 years, and when he died, he was buried in Shamir. Now, I want you to think about that. The people went off and strayed. They were brought back to Elohim. And then arose the worm, and he judged them for 23 years. You notice something interesting about this? Not one time does it say that he had to put down a rebellion. Doesn't say that he had to put down an uprising. Doesn't say that there were any stiff-necked people going against the covenant. It says that he judged them for 23 years. He had a flawless reign as judge, as Shah. No one came against the teachings of Moshe. For 10 years longer than my oldest daughter has been alive. For slightly longer than my son has been alive. For more than 2 decades, nearly a quarter of a century, there was no problem of sin in Israel. I'm not saying no one ever sinned, but there was nothing so great that the judge, the Shofet, had to step in and do something about it. Why? Because the people feared Elohim, and in large part because they feared him because of the example being set by the Shah. And his name was Worm. You know, it doesn't say, unlike some of you, he didn't take another name. He didn't claim glory for being Shah. He did his job. He did it righteously. And the entire nation was blessed. And I'm standing here today to tell you, if you have a job, I don't care what it is, I don't care if it's feeding the chickens. If you have a job and you do it righteously, people will see it and people will be drawn to that. And people will want to know what's different about you. Why are you living that way? And you will become shocked over them. Not that you're going to judge them, but you are going to show them how to judge righteously and how to choose their path according to the word. After him arose Yair from Gilead. He judged Israel 22 years. He had 30 sons who rode on 30 young donkeys. They owned 30 cities, which are called Hava Yair to this day. So it was like a circle of cities, basically, a little cluster of cities. They are in the territory of Gilead, and Yair died. When Yair died, he was buried in Kamah. Look at this. This is half a century, almost, 45 years. 45 years between the two of them, no uprising of the children of Israel. Bnei Yisrael was walking the path of righteousness as they had not done for centuries. And then it says, after Yair died, it says, again, the people of Israel did what was evil from Yehovah's perspective. You notice it doesn't say they did what was evil from their perspective, from the Shof's perspective. It says they did what was evil from Yehovah's perspective. It's something we have to remember there. Why were they doing right for 45 years? Because they were looking at things from Yehovah's perspective. Why did they fall into sin? Because they began to do what was right from their perspective. They served the Baalim and the Ashtaroth. Boy, we've fallen into that problem again today, haven't we? Baalim is everywhere. Ashtaroth is everywhere. Every mainline church in this town has a whole season set aside for Ashtaroth. Every mainline church in this town has a whole season set aside for Baalim. Okay? They're called Lent and what was the other one? Advent. Lent and Advent. Those are the seasons. That's what they call them today. And they lead up to days called Easter and Christmas. But that's exactly what we're talking about. It says they were the gods of Aram, the gods of Zidon, the gods of Moab, the gods of the people of Ammon, and the gods of the Philistines. So they went to their surrounding nations, to the people that dwelled among them in the land, or they dwelled among, and they took their beliefs and they incorporated it, and they were probably still doing a lot of the things commanded in Torah. In fact, they were probably doing most of the things commanded in Torah, and yet they were bringing in outside things, and they were serving those Elohim instead of the Elohim of their fathers. It says they abandoned Yehovah. Okay, that's the pattern there. They followed the false gods. They incorporated more false gods from the other countries. And what happened? Then they abandoned Yehovah. It's an order of operations, an order of downfall. It says, and did not serve him. So the anger of Yehovah blazed against Israel, and he handed them over to the Philistines and the people of Ammon. For 18 years, starting that year, they oppressed and persecuted all the people of Israel who lived beyond the Jordan in the territory of Amorim in Gilead. The people of Ammon also crossed the Jordan to fight Yehudah, Benjamin, and the house of Ephraim, so that Israel was greatly distressed. Okay? So they're fighting them on both sides of the border river. Chaos and torment is all around. And why? Because they're following false deities. And the people of Israel called out to Yehovah. My only question there is, why do they call out to him? My question isn't even, why is he going to answer? Because he always answers when we call out in true faith. Because that is who he is. The question I ask is, why does it take 18 years for a people to realize how badly they've messed up? Why does it take us as a people, I shouldn't say a people, our people, why did it take us 18 years to realize how badly we have messed up? We have sinned against you by forsaking our Elohim and serving the Baalim. You notice they didn't just say we've sinned against you. They named their sin. Okay, we see this elsewhere in Scripture. We see it such places as the prophet Daniel. Daniel asked for forgiveness for the nation for having sinned as a people, and not only for their immediate sins, but for the sins of their fathers that had caused them to go into captivity. That's what we see happening here. Yehovah said to the people of Israel, I saved you from the Mitzrayim, the Amorim, the people of Ammon, and the Philistines. Didn't die? In other words, do you remember this? It's only been 18 years. Do you remember when you lived in peace? You grandfathers, do you remember when you lived under a righteous Shah? Likewise, when the people of Zidon, Amalek, and Moab oppressed you, you cried out to me, and I rescued you from their power. Yet you abandoned me and served other Elohim. Therefore, I will not rescue you anymore. You know what I said? I'm not surprised that he answers. That's who he is. Just remember, just because Elohim always answers us doesn't mean that he always gives us the answer we're looking for. Go and cry to the Elohim you chose. Saying, you know what? You want to follow Baalim and Asherah? You want to do your Christmas and your Easter and your Advent and your Lent and all that stuff? You want to do that? You go pray to those gods when you're in trouble. You should ask my children sometimes how many times I've said, you chose this. I didn't want to send you to your room. I didn't want to swat your bottom. I didn't want to scold you. I didn't want to make you cry because you know you let Daddy down. But you chose this. That's what he's saying. He's saying you knew, because over and over again I've told you, do this, don't do this. If you do this, I'll bless you. If you do this, I'll curse you with captivity. Oh, you did it again. Oh, I'll pull you out of it. Oh, you did it again. Oh, I'll pull you out of it. He says, I'm done. He says, let them rescue you when you're in trouble. The people of Israel said to Yehovah, we have sinned. Treat us in whatever way seems good to you, but save us today, please. In other words, he said, we don't care what punishment we have if we don't have to be in this captivity. It is so horrid. Ask my children how many times they've tried to make a deal with me. Dad, I know I messed up. Can I please come out of my room? I'll do what you told me to do, and maybe an extra chore. They got rid of their foreign Elohim and served Yehovah, and he became troubled by Israel's misery. You notice something interesting there? I do. It says they threw away the pagan Elohim after they made a deal with Yehovah, or tried to. I wonder, when they were saying, please save us, was he looking down and saying, maybe the reason he's saying don't pray to those Elohims is because the statues are still sitting there. The false deities are still represented in their homes. But when they threw away the paganism, and they began to observe Torah, then he became troubled by their misery. I've told you things to ask my children. Ask me when I see my children finally do what's right. How hard is it to keep holding them to the punishment? Then the people of Ammon gathered together and set up camp in Gilead, while the people of Yitran assembled and camped at Mizpah. The people, the chiefs of Gilead, said to each other, whoever leads the battle against the army of Ammon will be head over everyone living in Gilead. And I'm going to say it again. I've said it many times. I don't understand why they put the chapter break where they put the chapter break. Because the story is just getting good. And we'll pick up where we left off today, next week,